All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us. My name is Zach Goldberg. I am the program director here at Deliver the Dream. Thanks so much. Of course, this is our Hope at Home virtual programming brought to you in part by Aetna, allowing us to continue to put these on week to week to help our families and friends stay connected and do fun activities. Of course, today we have a very, very special visitor and an awesome activity and time planned. So I want to welcome and thank Mr. Timothy Leistner for being on with us. And see here.
Thank you.
Today we have a nice meet and greet story time as well as a fun activity planned. So Timothy, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we have some new families on here since last time. So take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, Zach, and welcome everybody. I'm Timothy Leistner. I was a teacher for a long time, and I decided to start, I was also an artist, so I started writing and illustrating children's books, and I've written a few of them. The last one that I read for Deliver the Dream was called Stitch and Sew, the Doll Maker Story. I did that. That was one of my newer books, and I also came up with a coloring book, which is called Welcome Garden Coloring Book. And in June, I'll be back with Deliver the Dream, and I will be reading this book, which is called Turducken, which is, I just illustrated this past summer, and this is a book by Stacy Jovine, but I did all the illustrations for it, and that's gonna be fun. So this summer, I believe it's June the 25th. You don't want to miss that because we'll be drawing different ducks and turkeys and chickens. But today, I'm going to be reading one of my absolute favorite books. And the reason it's my absolute favorite is because it was actually written by my mom. And this book is called The House Where Happiness Lived. And it's by my mom, Sue Heiser Leistner. And I did the illustrations for it quite a while ago. And it's a wonderful story, and it's really the story about my mom's life. And so it's going to be a little different because of the time period of the story is very different from the way we live now. In fact, when this story was written was really in the time called the Great Depression. We're sort of going through a few little things like that now, but this was a little different time because at this time they had no computers. They didn't even have televisions at this time. So people listened to the radio for entertainment, and people worked to their gardens and helped other people. And there were a lot of people out of work during this time, so you had to really help each other. And it was an interesting time in American history, but it was a time way before a lot of you were born. In fact, even before Mr. Zach was born, and actually even before I was born. So it's really, really a long time ago. So it's historical, but there's still a good message in the book. And we can learn a lot by looking back at the past and seeing how other people lived and the things that they did to make their lives happy. In this story, we're going to have some different words though. Some words that maybe you're familiar with, but some that you may not be. One of the words is this word, and it's called groceries. Can anybody tell me what are groceries? Anybody? I don't know if we have to take them off mute or I don't know.
Everyone off mute. So.
What are groceries, Dominique?
I see somebody over here with the gentleman with the beard.
Yes, good source, yes.
Yes.
Okay. What are
Go ahead, tell them what groceries are.
Food that you buy at the store.
Exactly, the items that you buy at the store, the food and that type of thing. And I bet a lot of you have
At the grocery store? No, just
groceries. Okay, so that's one of the words. Another word that you might be
blanket.
not. This word. Anybody know what this word?
Right there.
do you know what's good? Raise your hand. It's like a frying pan. Cast iron frying pan.
It's like a cast iron frying pan.
Yes, exactly. It's a cast iron frying pan. That's exactly. You're great at this. Yeah. So a skillet. It's a cast iron frying frying pan, and it's very, very heavy, but that's what it is. It's a skillet. Okay, I've got another word for you that a lot of people don't know this word. It's called alley. Who knows what an alley is?
Something you walk through?
Yes, it's like a little street on the side of a house, an alleyway where you'd walk through. So an alley is sometimes just a street, but some people drive through it, but it's just a little tiny street, sometimes next to a house or in between buildings. It's called an alley. Sometimes
so when we think of alleys, we like if it's a group of housing or a block of houses, it's usually the walkway or driveway between several townhouses out here or condos. But we're from Philadelphia, so Philadelphia had a lot of alleyways, and very familiar.
Yeah, I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Ohio, and they have a lot of alleyways.
Exactly.
Good, good. Here's another word which some people might know. Anybody know what
That is
Things you
for
put in
people.
your hair?
this is a really strange word, bobby pins. Some of the ladies may know this. These are little pins that you put in your hair to like make
Louder. You gotta say it louder. Hairpins.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And you have some with pearls on them.
Ah.
Like Elsa?
A couple more. This one's a different one. This is an old word that hardly anybody uses anymore, but you'll probably know when you see the picture. This word is posies. What do you think posies are?
Flower?
Flowers,
A
yes.
type of flower.
Yeah, so posies are just like a old word for flower. Okay? And I've got a couple more. This guy.
Oh, he was president of the United States.
Exactly. He was actually our 32nd president of the United States, President Roosevelt. And yeah, so he's also going to be mentioned in the book because he was president during the time of the book. We got a couple more. This one is Kaleidoscope. Do you know what a kaleidoscope is?
It's like a telescope.
Like a telescope of what? What's inside of it?
Pictures.
Pictures and just colors, little glass that make all these beautiful designs. So kaleidoscope is like, it is it's like a little telescope full of, it has a glass and mirrors and it makes different colors. It's beautiful. So kaleidoscope. And our last word is?
Treasure.
Everybody knows.
Treasure? Yeah. Like,
So those are some of the words that you're going to hear in this book. So at least if you hear posies, you'll know it's about flowers. If you hear bobby pins, those little things that women stick in their hair. So you're going to hear some of those, and some of the time period's going to be a little different, but you'll get it. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to read it to you. The House Where Happiness Lived, and it's by Sue Leistner, and the illustrations are by me, Timothy Leistner. What's funny about this book is when my mom was a little girl, when she was young and she was still in school, she wrote a poem. And when she wrote this poem, it was probably when she was like in 7th or 8th grade, maybe even before, I don't really know. But she wrote a poem, and that was the inspiration to write this book. So I'm going to read her poem that she actually wrote when she was a little girl. And that's what was the inspiration for the book. So keep that in mind. If you write poetry at home or if you write things, keep them. You never know what might happen. They could be a book someday. So here's her poem, Child of Happiness by Sue Leistner. In a little white house on the corner, a child called Happiness lives. And to everyone who visits her there, a token of friendship she gives. Her sweet smile is contagious and sunny. It would warm the coldest heart. Here men like merciless Scrooge may obtain the road to happiness chart. To the miserly or the conceited or anyone feeling blue, that little white house is always open for me and also for you. So that was her poem. So I dedicated the book, of course, to my mom and my grandmother who lived there, my great-grandmother, and I'll read the story now. In a little white house in the corner, a child called Happiness lived. She lived with her mama, her grandma, and her dog, Scrap. She was the child of happiness because she made people feel happy. Everyone who came to the door was welcomed. The little girl loved the small cottage that they lived in, but it was the alley next to the house where there were treasures to be found. The colored gems glistened in the sunlight. They were all shapes and sizes and had jagged edges. You had to be careful when you touched them. She put them in an old cigar box and hurried through the gate. She told the young pup, Scrap, who wanted to play, "I have to go and see Grandma first." The old lady grinned when the child showed off the kaleidoscope of color. "Sure are pretty. Must be from a broken root beer bottle," she said, taking time to admire the bits of broken glass. "Grandma, may I show the jewels to my friend Wade after a while?" A loud banging on the door interrupted the talk. The stranger on the stoop looked tired, and his clothes were worn and shabby. But he was polite as he asked, "Can you spare a meal, lady?" Grandma told him, "If you sit on the back porch steps, mister, my granddaughter will bring you something." The child whispered, "Is he a tramp, Grandma?" "Just down in his luck," was how she put it. He looks pale, but he'll feel better with some food in his belly." So it was sort of like a hobo or a homeless person, we call them now. Someone who maybe is alone on the street, living in the street, and was hungry. That's who he was. Now you slice up the potatoes in the pan and beat up those eggs with your fork. Finally, the girl put bread on the plate and hurried outside. After the stranger ate, he smiled. "Thanks, little lady. That sure hit the spot." With color in his cheeks, the man looked a lot better. That made her feel better. With a wave of his hand, he opened the gate and he walked to the railroad tracks. Grandma said, "If your friend Wade is coming over today, you may pick some posies for his mother." It was a good idea, the child of happiness thought. The cottage was surrounded with beautiful flowers. Tulips, daisies, black-eyed Susans lined the sidewalk leading to the back door. From the neighbor's yard, climbing roses and hollyhocks spilled over the fence to join Grandma's garden. It would be a treat for Wade to see the box of gems. He didn't have very many friends. He couldn't play games because he had polio, like President Roosevelt. But he did like to trade comic books. That made him feel happy. "Looks like Wade's mother is feeling blue," Grandma said, as they watched the tiny woman wheeling the boy to the gate. When they reached a shady spot under the tree, that's when they stopped. The girl sorted the bits of glass and put them in rows on Wade's lap. When her friend bobbed his head and grinned, she knew he liked them. The child was happy. As Wade's mother watched the boy, some of the sadness left her face. "It feels good to be with friends," she said. When the stack of comic books kept falling off Wade's lap, everybody laughed like it was a joke. Soon the visit ended, and the child presented the posies to Wade's mother. "How pretty these will look on my table," she said, as she enjoyed the fragrance. When they left, the child of happiness chased a dancing butterfly that followed them. But when Grandma called, she turned back. How about it? Can you help me wash and set my hair? Swell, was her her granddaughter's answer. She thought it was more important than sudsing Scrap with the bucket. Besides, when he spotted a hose, the puppy always ran away. Grandma got out the shampoo she bought from her Watkins man. The girl brought the towel and a chair and kneeled by the sink. When Grandma's hair was clean, she rinsed it with a cup of vinegar and water. She loved to comb and brush the white hair. Next, she wrapped the strands around her finger to make pin curls. Each one was held by a bobby pin. It was a sunny day, so they sat outside so the hair would dry quicker. Sitting on the old swing made the child feel so happy. It made her want to sing. She started with Pop Goes the Weasel and some school songs. The lady just hummed along a little. Scrap wagged his tail and watched. When they were tired of singing, Grandma suggested, "Why don't you bring out the button bucket?" It was fun to string buttons. She made a lovely necklace for Grandma. When Grandma put it on right away, it made the child feel happy. The girl never got tired of sifting through the buttons, exploring for unusual things. Sometimes Grandma had a story about the stuff in the bucket. So there was a button bucket where they kept their buttons, like extra buttons. This time it contained a foreign coin, a diaper pin with a pig's face on it, and a thimble. They found a skate key, a rusty nail, and 2 shiny brass buttons. Graham explained that those buttons came from her pa's Civil War uniform. When it was almost supper time, the child asked, "May I set the table now, Grandma?" "Sure, that will really help me out," the old lady replied. She started to fry chicken in the black iron skillet. The girl put 3 plates on the kitchen table and folded a paper napkin beside each fork. "Your mom will be coming home from work soon," Grandma said. "I'll meet her at the bus stop." It was something that she looked forward to doing. Her mama worked as a sales lady in a department store downtown. She sold little girls' dresses. She had to stand for long hours. When she came home, she was tired and her feet always hurt. There she is, selling dresses. As the child skipped to the corner bus stop, she saw the Iceman delivering a block of ice. When the truck pulled away, the man tossed her a generous piece. She wrapped the ice chip in newspaper and sipped on it as she waited for the 6 o'clock bus. In this day, they didn't have like popsicles like we have now. You actually sipped on just ice. It was cool during the summer. Her mother stepped off the bus carrying 2 big shopping bags full of groceries. She smiled when she saw her daughter and handed her a bag. "I just knew you'd be here to help me. I really missed you," she said. The child was happy. On the way home, Mama asked about everything the girl had done that day. Then Mama talked about the sale at the store and what a busy day it had been. After they ate supper, the child wiped the dishes while her mama read the newspaper. Because Mama's feet were red and swollen, her daughter took a pail and filled it with Epsom salts and hot water so she could soak them. Mama's feet felt better, and the child was happy. Before they went to bed, the family listened to the radio. They had a big old radio like this, so they listened to the radio. The child's favorite program was The Hermits Cave. The story was always so scary that she never, ever listened to it alone. Even though she knew the program always started with the old hermit's horrible laugh, she was never prepared. When the hermit growled, "Ah, now come into my dark cave," she shivered. She thought she would jump out of her skin. Even Scrap crawled underneath Grandma's rocker with his head between his paws. She watched her mother tremble, so she held her hand while they huddled as close as they could until the story ended, and the girl was content and happy. When it was bedtime, Mama turned off the lights. She said, "Sweet dreams, honey," as they got into bed together. The child of happiness said her prayers and thought what a good day it had been. She was almost asleep when she heard the familiar train whistle in the distance. It reminded her where she was, there in the little white house in the corner, with her mama and grandma and Scrap. And that is the end of the story, The House Where Happiness Lived.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So that story's a little different because it did take place at a different time. But I hope you realize that I want you to think some of the things that the little girl did, like she fed the homeless man, the tramp, and when she did, she felt happy. And she helped her mom with the groceries coming back from the bus. And that made her feel happy. And she strung the buttons for Grandma and gave her the necklace, and that made her feel happy. So keep that in mind. We find happiness by doing kind things for the people that we love. So you to think of, maybe you can think of 5 things that you could do for your brother, your sister, your mom, or your dad, or a neighbor. Think of 5 things that you could do
So, Papa's cute.
make everybody happy. Okay? All right. So now we've got a little activity.
Woo! Activity time.
Okay. All right. Activity.
Zach is excited.
You might have some beads. You might have a pipe cleaner. Sometimes these are called a chenille stem or yarn. We have a large. We have large and small buttons. I don't know if you have any of these, but if you do, do it with us. If you don't, you can get them later. But basically what you want to do is take the chenille stem or yarn, either way, and then pick buttons, and you want to actually string the buttons. So I'm taking a little yellow button, and I'm just popping it through. It's easier with these pipe cleaners, but you can also do it with yarn, either way. And then what I like to do is make a pattern. So I have a yellow button, and then I'm going to do a pink button. Look. How many of you, do some of you have those? Oh, it looks like some people do. Good. Okay, great. So start to string the buttons, and then try to see if you can come up with a pattern. Like I'm going to do yellow, pink, yellow, pink. I'm going to do some dark yellow, some light yellow, some dark pink, some light pink. See if you can string some buttons, and they don't even have to have a pattern. You can just do them anyway, whatever you like, and sort of think about the shapes of the buttons. Maybe they're circular buttons, maybe they're circles. I was lucky I have some star buttons here. You might have some stars. You could use stars. I have some heart buttons. Big buttons, little buttons, lots of different buttons. So sort of describe your buttons to whoever you're with. And that sort of makes it.
It's Deliver the Dream.
Oh, look it, we got lots of.
And story about him making something. Whoa.
I have a question for you, Tim.
Yes, Zach.
How long, since this is a good time, if anybody else has any questions or anything while we're doing a craft, how long did it take you to illustrate that book?
Oh, boy. That took me a year to illustrate that book. And I'll be honest with you, the illustrations took me a long time to do because of, I really wanted them to look like the people that were in the story. So it was really fun for me. It was sort of a labor of love because I looked at pictures of my grandmother when she was young and my great-grandmother when she was young and my mom. And I did that. There's a lot of family things in the book that that meant something, like the button bucket. That was really my grandmother's real button bucket. And they have the one part where there's a lot of things, like there's a cast iron skillet that used to be my grandmother's that I know of. If you look at this picture, there's like a water pitcher here. And actually that water pitcher always sat on my grandmother's table. And that's, I think, the one that they poured the water in. This is actually the real water pitcher. It's like an water pitcher, and that's what they used at the time. So I looked at that when I drew a lot of the pictures. So that was, something that my great-grandmother had. It's very old. It's probably not worth that much, but it's sentimental to me because they used it. So a lot of the illustrations, when I did them, this house is actually really there. It's still in Toledo, Ohio, where they were from. And the house is still there. It is a little white house. It's on the corner. Not a fancy house. Not a, not anything that you would say was stately or anything like that. Just a nice little home. And my grandmother did do a lot of gardening. The last page of the book, some of you may have noticed, some of you may not have, but the child of happiness and her mom slept in the same bed. Actually, at that time, that was sort of normal. People didn't have a lot of money. They shared a bedroom. My mother actually shared a bed with my grandmother until the day she got married, which was really, to me, odd. At this day and age, we all have our own bedrooms and everything, but at that time, it was a luxury for some people to have your own bedroom. And I actually, in the illustrations, these are actually real photographs of my mom and my grandmother and my great-grandmother that are like sitting next to the bed. So I put those in. So, think about that too, that you could write a story about what your family does. This is something that you could actually do while you're home together at this time. It might be nice to share a memory, to, talk about different things you did. It doesn't have to be anything huge or amazing. Sometimes just working in the garden and having the neighbors visit, it's important. That's the things that, it's funny, those are the things that my mom treasured and remembered. Going into the alleyway and picking up little bits of glass she thought were treasures, but they were glistening and everything. They're really just broken piece of glass. I still get excited when I go to the beach and pick up sea glass. Oh my God, you'd think I found diamond ring. I mean, I am so excited when I go to the beach and I find sea glass and I collect it. I put it in a little jar. I'm crazy about that stuff. So, sometimes those are the things that we'll remember and that are important. So think about that with your family. What makes you happy? What are different things? And come up with your family story. I think that family stories are beautiful and they're important, and they document lives well lived. And I think that's important for everybody. So the illustrations took me a while. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, Carolyn, I'm unmuting you now. There you go.
Good afternoon. I wanted to find out if, so for the illustrations, do you hand draw the illustrations, or do you use some type of computer program?
I actually did these in, these were all executed in watercolor. So what I did is I drew them all out in pencil first, and then I had just pencil on white paper, and then I went ahead and I used watercolor paint, and the entire book was illustrated with watercolors. So yeah, I did, all these are like mini watercolor paintings, and then they were photographed and they were put in the book. And that's sort of how it, yeah, but they're all just watercolors. I'm pretty much a watercolorist. That's what I do. I paint watercolors. So yeah, all the illustrations in all my books have pretty much been watercolors or pen. But yeah, but I don't use too much with computer graphics, that type of thing. I think that it's a neat way to do it. I wish I knew more about it. I played around with that a little bit, but I'm sort of old school. I do everything in the traditional watercolors, you know, but it takes a long time, but I love it. So that's what I did.
Right, here's cherry.
If you want, there's also, if you're not familiar with them, are you familiar with, it's Carolyn, is that right?
Carolyn, yes.
Yeah. Are you familiar with watercolor pencils by any chance?
No.
You should get them. They're really cool. Buy watercolor pencils. You can draw with the pencil, then you add water into paint.
Wow.
They are so cool. And you can really do so many different things with watercolor pencils where you just, actually, I'll show you mine. I've got them right here.
Just 1 second, Dominique. We'll get to you, okay? I see your hand up.
Yeah, these are like watercolor pencils. And they're just a set of pencils. But what's nice about them is once you draw with them and then you add a brush to them, they will turn to paint. So they're really good for detail work if you want to do that type of thing. I use them all the time, and they are watercolors. They're just, it's sort of using a drawing and a painting medium at the same time. Is that something that you're thinking of doing, is illustrating a book?
I put together a little story for my grandson, and I just took him back home to Seattle because his mom and dad are also active duty. And I had him during when everything first shut down. They had just came from Japan, and I went and got my grandson. And he's very, very attached. So I did a book, I Want to Go to Grandma's House. Just a little quick short story for him. And I would like to do something similar with the pictures and you know, our trip from Seattle, because I'm in the at-risk category, so I literally had to drive from Georgia to Seattle.
Oh God, that's a long way.
A friend of mine is a tractor trailer driver, and so he rerouted his schedule so he could pick us up and drive back with us, and it was really an adventure. And driving, because my husband was out of town, but going back to take him back home, we rented a huge vehicle so the twins and my grandson could be comfortable in the drive. And you know, but when we stayed there for a few days, but when we had to leave, he was so sad. He was like, "Grandma, put my things in my blue bag and put them in the car. You know, I just want to go to Grandma's house."
Oh, that's sweet. That's nice. Did you take pictures along the way?
We did. That's why I wanted to do, you know, I love your idea. I want to do the realistic pictures and,
Good.
you know.
Yeah, you should really get those photographs together. Come up with like a storyboard where you write up the adventure, you know, going from here to Seattle. You know, write up the story of what you want, the characters in it, and then yeah, start to draw. And they don't always have to be, you know, perfect. They don't have to look exactly like the person, but they can still be, you know, they're caricatures of the person, which is fine. But yeah, you should definitely do that. That's beautiful. And that'll be something that he'll treasure someday, you know, a book, and you can dedicate it to him, which is really, really nice. I mean, I think that, you know, I think sometimes we need to do that to remember people. And that way you're always not only in his heart, but also in a book. And I think that's a good thing too. So something he can revisit always. So yeah, so do that. If you do, please let me know how that turns out. I'd love to see it.
You know, if I could also make a suggestion, a lot of places like CVS or Walgreens, or you can have your pictures and your photographs. You say, you know, I want 25 pages in a book. They'll put them together, and they're not too expensive. You know, we had somebody made one for my kids for like their 4th birthday, and it was all the pictures of the year, and it's something special that they really like. But yeah, and you could add your own illustrations or whatever to it, and it's a cheap way to do it, from Walmart or Walgreens or CVS. So definitely check that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be nice too if you just want to do the photographs. So either way, that is good. And there's another company out there, I think it's called Blurb, and they can make up books. There's a lot of different online ones that you can actually make up books online and they'll publish them. But yeah, I didn't know that Walgreens was doing that. That's actually really cool because that's, and right now for a lot of people, they have more time probably than we normally do. Some people have less time because they're taking care of people, but either way, doing those type of activities, I think they're always worthwhile. I really do. In fact, I'm working on 2 more books now, and I want to get them done, but some days you feel like it and you work on it, and other days can turn into weeks where you don't work on it, but you keep going back and eventually you do get stuff done. And so, a lot of times it just starts with just what you're doing, an idea. And you have that idea, start to just jot down notes, it'll come to you. Before you know it, you'll have a story written, you'll have the pictures, and you'll just do it until you get it done. So it's a process, but it's a fun process.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
How did you first get published, and do you have a manager, or is it, or an agent,
I really probably do need an agent. I don't have an agent. The first time I was published was I wrote a textbook for college called Exploring Language Arts Through Literature, birth through grade A. And it was published through a college. It was called Kendall Hunt Publishing. I wrote it together. I was working at Florida Atlantic University. And so that was traditional publishing. This book and my other books, I've done self-publishing.
Oh, you did self-publishing.
Yeah, and
self-publishing.
I have to say that traditional publishing is great.
Yeah.
A lot of times you make more money through self-publishing than you do traditional publishing, unless you're a big name or unless you have a company that really is willing to promote you a lot. It's really hard, and it's even hard to get to I would love to do the traditional publishing route for a children's book. I've tried that, haven't had as much success, so I thought, well, I'll self-publish. And the thing that's nice about self-publishing is you can keep it pure. If you do traditional publishing, a lot of times if you write a story, they'll have another person want to illustrate it, or they'll say, oh, we want this to be this. And the editor changes a lot. A lot of times editors don't really help your book. For me, it was so important that I kept it pure because it was my mom's story. I didn't need to change her words. I didn't want, I wanted it to be pure. So that was important to me. That's one of the reasons I self-published it. But I'm not against traditional publishing. It's really a matter of what you want to do. Yeah.
Right. So, but where have you sold your books? Do you get to go to
they're available
signings? Do you go to have you sold them in Barnes and Nobles? Have you been picked up by big stores and stuff?
Yes, they're available.
That's amazing.
On Amazon. If you go to Amazon, you can get them. Just type in Timothy Leister and the name of the thing, and you can order them online. So they're available on Amazon. You can go to Barnes and Noble. All you do is give my name, and they'll get them. I've done a lot of self-promotion where I've done a lot of local libraries. Go and read to kids and parents and do that.
Right.
Delray, I've done Wilton Manors, author seminars all the time, and go to schools. So yeah, it's a lot of self-promotion. I wish I was rich off of it. I'm not. But, the main thing is it's something that I love to do, and it's meaningful to me. I don't think I do a book just to do a book. I also illustrate, so like for the book that I'm doing in June, this book I get no royalties off of at all. But basically, I charged the author a flat fee to do all the illustrations in the book. And so I did all the illustrations of the book, and then she had it published and did that. So, so there's, different ways to do it as well. So this book, I didn't write it. She wrote it, but I illustrated it, and then she sells it. But I got, money for the illustrations. So, so there's different ways you can do that type of thing as well. And then also I've actually, like my coloring book, I actually had that printed locally and had a bunch of them printed at once. I'll never do that again, because you have like all these books like that come to you in huge boxes. And it's really, unless you really go to every place and sell all the time, you have lots of books left over. So I don't want to do that route again, except for they did a really beautiful job. You have a lot of control over it, but you have books forever.
Right, I can imagine.
And then I see 2 questions, Tim. Let's see here. Carolyn asked, which companies have you used for this self-publishing?
Okay. I have used Blurb before. I've done that. But the main one that I did these books was called Create Space. I also started my own publishing company, Button Bucket Book, down here in Florida, which is a Florida corporation. But it was also done through Create Space. And I believe it's now called Kindle Direct Publishing. And they did a good job. They make most of the money on it, but they do a good job. And so that's I hope that's
perfect. And then Miss Dominique has raising her.
Where's Dominique?
She's down here. Hi.
Okay, I couldn't hear a question.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. If you are the author, just maybe you need to think about the pen, but there's magic in there.
Oh, thank you. There is magic in that if you're an author. Yeah, because thinking of the words of the story, I do believe that, Dominique. That's a beautiful thing. There is magic in it. There's magic in writing, and there's magic in doing the artwork. It's true. There's a lot of magic and just beautiful things. What a beautiful.
I know one my favorite movie.
What's your favorite movie?
Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time. I bet that's a good one. Is that a Disney movie?
Yes.
Okay, they make some good movies, don't they?
Yes, all the Joshua pens really have real magic in them.
Yeah. Do you like to write? Do you write at all?
In my diary, actually.
Your daddy does? Okay. Do you like to do artwork? Do you like to paint or draw?
No, I do storybooks.
You do storybooks. Good for you. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And maybe you can do something that's called collaborate, where you work together with dad or you work together with mom or a friend.
I work alone.
And that's a good thing to do, because that's what I did with my mom. I actually collaborated on this book where we worked together to make the book. And that was really important to me. And it's something that it means a lot to me, because I got to work with her, and these were her words, and she wrote it, and I did the pictures. And it was just really nice doing that together. Something special.
And, don't forget, you have to control the magic.
You have to control the magic. Okay, that makes sense. That's a beautiful thought. Thank you, though. I like that idea. I like that word magic. It's always makes you think sort of beautiful thoughts. So good. Thank you. All right.
I write happy endings.
I like happy endings, too. I do. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. That's good. Good.
Well, thank you so much, Timothy. We love having you on here. Can't wait to bring you back next month. Everyone on the call, thanks for joining us. I'd love for you to take pictures of your necklaces. You can tweet them, post them on our Facebook so everyone can see. Let's see, I'm going to mute some people because I'm echoing a little bit. Let's see. Okay, perfect. All right, sorry. Okay, so We do have our June kits that we are going to send out in the mail. So I did send out in a little chat for everyone to see. If you want to email me, which my name's zachary.goldberg@deliverthedream.org. We'll put a June kit in the mail for you. It includes all the activities, the templates, everything needed for every Tuesday and Thursday activity. We have a lot of special stuff planned for this month for all the entire family. So make sure to send me an email or reach out to me so that I can get that into the mail for you guys. If you haven't signed up already, tomorrow evening, we have another Campfire Series concert. We have our special artist, Samuel Erb, who will be performing. You need to register online. So if you haven't done that already, you can go to deliverthedream.org. We have our event page, and it's right there. It says Samuel Erb. You sign up, and we'll send you all the information. You definitely don't want to miss that. We actually have some prizes and giveaways throughout the call tomorrow night, as well as a chance to request some songs and be a part of that intimate concert. And then, of course, if you guys need anything, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. We are here to Deliver the Dream. We're continuing doing programming. We love interacting with all of our families, new friends, old families, old friends. We love creating what we've done here, so we want to continue it. So make sure to tell your friends about it. Invite some friends for the next call. We would love to bring our calls up to 50 people and get it really going and cranking for the summer. But I really appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you so much, Timothy. I'm going to unmute everyone. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. It was a great story today. We love all the art. We love you sharing with us. I hope you guys stay safe. Everybody stay indoors. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow at the campfire.
Thank you.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.